This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we talk about a person who is sentenced to 7 years in prison for a complex, no-fault insurance fraud, and why that defendant, in addition to serving his 7 years, must pay $46 million in restitution in installments. On November 1, 2023, Defendant Roman Israilov pled guilty to conspiracy to commit healthcare insurance fraud and aggravated identity theft in connection with a long-running no-fault insurance fraud scheme. On May 23, 2024, the USDC sentenced Israilov to 7 years imprisonment and 3 years supervised release, but deferred its determination as to restitution. In the USA versus Roman Israilov, the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, on August 20, 2024, added restitution to the sentence to reimburse the insurers for their losses. The government sought an order requiring Israilov to make restitution to 13 insurance companies in the aggregate amount of $46,651,801.04. The purpose of the proposed restitution order was to reimburse the insurers for payments they made to medical clinics that were controlled by non-physicians, including Israilov. Israilov opposed the government's application, of course. Israilov was charged in a large, multi-defendant case premised on a $40 million no-fault insurance fraud scheme. The indictment alleged that from approximately 2014 to 2021, Israilov and his co-defendants procured the identity of car accident victims through bribery, steered the accident victims to corrupt, no-fault medical clinics willing to pay kickbacks for the referrals, and billed insurance companies for unnecessary medical procedures and medications. The corrupt medical clinics also falsely represented to the insurers that they were owned and controlled by physicians, when in fact they were not. On November 1 of 23, Israilov pled guilty to conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and to aggravated identity theft. From at least in or about 2014 up to and including in or about 2021, the defendant agreed with others to unlawfully own and run clinics and pharmacies located in the New York area. Although his profession was that of a barber, the defendant knew that clinics are unable to bill insurance companies for no-fault benefits if the medical facilities are controlled by non-physicians. They did it anyway. The Mandatory Victims Restitution Act, the MVRA, provides that when sentencing a defendant for an offense in which an identifiable victim or victims has suffered a pecuniary loss, the court shall order, in addition to any other penalty authorized by law, that the defendant make restitution to the victim of the offense. The primary and overarching goal of the MVRA is to make victims of crime whole. The government seeks a restitution order amounting to more than $46 million. The government argued that under New York's no-fault insurance law, medical clinics under the control of non-physicians such as Israilov are not entitled to reimbursement from insurers for any medical claims, including for treatments and care that were in fact medically necessary. Insurers have submitted affidavits or declarations stating that they made payments to medical clinics controlled by Israilov and his co-conspirators in the listed amounts. that totaled the more than $46 million number. Absent Israilov's fraudulent representations that his clinics were controlled and operated by physicians, the insurers would have provided no reimbursement for the medical care they rendered. There is thus no amount that the insurer would have paid had the defendant not committed the fraud. The loss to the insurers was enormous, more than $40 million, and the proceeds of the fraud that the defendant received more than $5 million. Finally, Israilov requests that any order of restitution require monthly payments of 20% of his gross monthly income. In determining a payment schedule, the court must consider the financial resources and other assets of the defendant and the defendant's earnings and other income, and any financial obligations of the defendant, including obligations to defendants. Israilov stated that he will likely return to work as a barber after imprisonment and will need to support his wife and 3 children. Given these circumstances, Israilov contends that the installment payments amounting to 20% of his monthly gross income would be excessive. In light of Israilov's likely future employment and his family's obligations, the court's restitution order will provide for monthly installment payments amounting to 15% of his gross monthly income, and for the reasons stated above, the court will and did enter an order of restitution in the aggregate amount of $46,651,801.04. In my opinion, the restitution order is a victory for Israilov, since at 15% of his earnings as a barber, the restitution amount will be paid off in about 10,000 years after he is released from prison, unless he goes back to his fraudulent ways and makes enough money from the fraud to pay off the restitution. He will serve the full 7 years where he will make no money. Israilov is a serious criminal who profited from the crime and has apparently spent the $5 million he took from the crime. This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zelma.com/blog. You can subscribe to the blog, and if you do, you'll receive notice of every blog posting, usually 5, sometimes 6 a week, and you'll have access to the more than 4,850 blog postings. You can also subscribe for free to the videos on YouTube and rumble.com. And if you do, please click on the like button on YouTube or the thumbs up button on rumble.com. Please tell your friends and colleagues about the blog and the videos and let them subscribe as well. And if you're interested in further detail about insurance, insurance claims, insurance law, and insurance fraud, please consider subscribing for a very small fee to my Substack publication. Thank you for your attention.